saying that.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Freedom Network. My name is Seanin Mouland. I am your host. Your truth is our unity. Today's truth is coming from the beautiful Miguel Dean, right? Miguel, I'm a big fan of this guy. I was just telling him there from a really, really genuine, heartfelt, warm place. He's so direct and open and honest and there and uncomplicated with it. And we were in the middle of that kind of exchange right before we started. So I thought, right, go live quick before we waste this. Because Miguel was just sharing with me how he's been experiencing today, and I'm feeling exactly the same, right? And it was an important thing to bring forward. Miguel, where were we? What were you sharing with me there that might be helpful for everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a big question, isn't it? When people say, "How are you?" It can be, if you're going to be honest, it's a big question. So yeah, it's that the headline is "I'm good," and the underneath the headline is, oh my God, it's like I've been finding it challenging, just not sleeping, kind of surface around the edges, sort of anxiety and kind of depression. And it's kind of like I do this checklist and go, relationship, health, home, money, blah, blah. It's like everything's great, everything's fine. Why am I feeling this? And it's kind of like, okay, just surrender, give it up. It was, maybe it's not mine. It's just passing through. So yeah, this journey is not for the faint of heart, eh?
No. Bloody heck, no, there's not. But today I was like, I have an unhealthy attachment to humor when I don't feel good, right? And it is unhealthy, and I'm consciously aware of it, right? If I feel uncomfortable, nervous, sad, anything, I will make inappropriate jokes until my vibration shifts and the environment around me changes also, right? It's like I'm literally drawn to destroy the antipathy in any environment so that I can come back to equilibrium. And I did that earlier today. I got on a video and I basically I rip-roared for about 10 minutes on like just a lot of the stuff that I'm feeling really disillusioned by now. There's disillusioned in my heart at the minute. And like I'm working through some client work and I had to keep stopping today to center myself and return and focus because the depth of the stuff that was coming up through those transmissions was just a lot of sadness, a lot of pain, a lot of isolation. And I was just telling you, I create in response to whatever I'm picking up at the time. So that video was like, right, let's make everybody laugh, right? By taking the mickey out of myself pretty much, right? And get some balance back. But yeah, I'm with you. Like that's the way it's feeling right now. And it's not an easy journey. And what bothers me is that this is sometimes an issue, something that we need to get over, that we're supposed to be out here instructing. The most beautiful thing is the connection. That's healing for me. Like I feel better now that we've connected this way,
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, and that's it, isn't it? It's because let's face it, most of the pain and the discomfort is around separation and isolation, and it's just me and the ego, that making it out, that put you in a little box. But yeah, and as soon as we have some authentic, genuine, real, vulnerable communication, it's like, well, that's dissolved that one. Like, you know what I mean? It's like ego, it's like off you go. You haven't got a leg to stand on.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's no fight. Now I'm fascinated by your book. Right, we've just had Scott Ravagnani. Scott, I never say your last name correctly. I love this guy. Scott Ravagnani. Right, I think I got it right just then. I know this guy's lovely. He's saying, I'm just sitting reading his book right now. He's literally just in the middle of reading your book. And awesome. I want to hear all about this.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. Bring him home.
Bring him home.
What do you want to know? Ask me something specific.
Yeah, like where did this come from, right? When did the journey of coming home to yourself begin?
Well, I think there was a massive pivotal coming home to myself. It was all sort of, it's like everything was lined up. Well, I guess everything's lined up well before we get here in physical form, isn't it? But there was a big shift when my mom died when I was 7 months old.
Yeah.
So that sort of began the priming of me to really dedicate my life to going in search of that which I'd tasted for such a short period of time, that divine feminine essence, the pure love, the mother love, and so on. Yeah, you know, I had it for a little while and then it was gone. So that was the beginning, really. And, you know, and as I grew up, of course, I was looking for that externally through relationships with women, you know, trying to complete myself, you know, unconsciously knowing that there was this big mother wound inside me, this divine feminine wound inside me. And, you know, eventually getting to the place where there'd been enough pain and broken relationships to really, I kind of knew it for quite a while, but it was like I kept trying. It's like, oh, there must be an easier way. Surely I don't really have to face this pain, and I really don't have to walk into this fire. It's like, can I not just? There must be a what do they call it in computer games? You know, where you do a cheat sort of like. There must be a cheat that I can do, and it's like and yeah, and that was the beginning of the book, really. When I said to life, okay, I put my sword down. I'm not running anymore. I'm not fighting. I surrender. Whatever it is that I need to do to, you know, to come home to myself, to find peace, to be able to have a healthy, wholesome relationship. I'm ready. I'll do the work. And it was like that. Life said, okay, he's ready. So here, you know, send her on. So you know, then my twin flame arrived, and that's really where the book begins. And as it was a twin flame, thing, there was lots of coming and going. You know, we were on and we were off, and it was just too painful and too intense. And we separated a few times, thinking it was the end. First time we separated for 3 months. The book brought us back together because I realized after 3 months we separated. We thought it was the end. I started writing. It was like, oh my God, I need to write this book. I need to write this. It was like, really? Do I have to? It was like, yeah, you need to write this book. You need to honest, raw, vulnerable sharing of what conscious relationships about the divine feminine kissing the sacred masculine away. It's not the other fucking way round where the prince kisses the princess. It's the other way. That's a twist of patriarchy. So it was. I just started writing the book, and then I realized, oh my God, I can't. You know, she has to know. I can't put this book out there in the world without her blessing. And you know, the funny thing was that she's an intensely private person. So it was like, okay, how is she going to receive this? You know, she might go ballistic. She might be just like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. Even though my intention right from the beginning was to really make it anonymous, and it was about the journey of the sacred masculine homecoming, really. But yeah, so we met up after 3 months. The sort of emotion had settled and stuff to tell her about the book. And, you know, my version of the story is she seduced me and we ended up in bed together again. She might tell a slightly different version.
Yeah. That sounds like my husband when he tells stories. Yeah. It always works out in his favor. Well done.
So we came back together for a while, and yeah, and then it all fell apart. It was just like too scary, too intense, too full on. Very amicable. Let's go our separate ways, you know, go with my blessing and so on. So then I carried on writing the book then, and then as agreed, I got back in touch with her when I got the publishing deal, when it was finished and I got a publishing deal. She said, let me know. So that was 9 months later. So we met up for me to talk to her about that and just to reassure her some more, you know, and give her some of the feedback from the publisher, who is Sacred Stories Publishing. They were really into the divine feminine and were just so into the book because it's like, it's time for the voice of the sacred masculine to be out there. It's time to wake up. So we met up again, and the same happened. We got back together. She seduced me again, Seanin. Can you believe it?
I really can't.
She seduced me again.
You're a character, Miguel. I'm going to ask about it in a second, but I'm interested to know what frequency you were both holding when you met. But anyway, continue, because this is fun. I love that. I love it.
I think that's it really for the, that's how the book happened.
Wow.
And so it was like, the whole twin flame and divine child thing. It's like, this here's the baby. It kept bringing us back together, and obviously it wouldn't have been born if it wasn't, for what we went through.
No.
So that's that's it in a nutshell. And she was really, it was perfect because when she came back together, I just got the publishing deal, so she was able to help me edit it. Once the editor had read it and stuff.
Yeah.
Because he wanted some more information about her, because I was really conscious of making it as anonymous as possible. But I was aware of this. The editor said, if we don't have a bit more information about her and her backstory, it's a little bit like she just could be a sort of, a little girl having a tantrum, rather than the reader really knowing, what the roots of some of her challenges were. So, he said we need some more information. So we sat down together and drafted some bits that we could put in the book that she was comfortable with, that wasn't disclosing too much.
Yeah.
So it was really awesome. And then, finally when the book arrived, the first print copies came from America. She had her copy, and I wasn't supposed to be seeing her for about 5 or 6 days. And I came back from a walk on the hills, which I do quite frequently, and she was here in the house. I said, "What are you doing here?" She said, "I had to come." She said, "I was up all night reading the book. I couldn't put it down, and I love it." And it was like, bless you, it was beautiful.
Oh, she came to see you and landed in your. Oh wow! What were you feeling in that moment when she told you that? After you'd poured yourself out like this, so raw and true and complete, like, how did that feel?
It was it was just like the final piece, It was like, interestingly, both uses of the word peace. There was peace for me, that little bit of anxiety of how's she going to take it, and is she going to think that I've been unfair, or and the final piece of the jigsaw, really, that was like, okay, completion. It's got her total blessing now because she's read it. So the energy is now so aligned, the masculine and feminine to go out there. It's like, okay, yeah. And it was like a confirmation of, I knew I had to write this book, I knew it wasn't really, a choice thing. I knew it needed to be written.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What's the difference between love before her and love now?
Well, I guess.
Let's just jump on at the deep stuff.
Let's the two things that spring to mind are, it's now love rather than codependency, and the second thing that jumps to mind is, it's not like the work always continues, but there was an awful lot of a foursome. There was my little boy having a lot of tantrums, and the man, Miguel, and there was her little girl having a lot of tantrums, and the woman, and so we've brought them. It's now, little boy and little girl are playing together happily most of the time, and the man and woman can get on with exploring a proper, deeper love. Yeah, I imagine it's always a work in progress. We're actually moving in together in 3 weeks' time. I'm leaving my place and moving in. So there's we can call them challenges, we can call them gifts. That the work's ongoing, but we just learned so much, and the roots are kind of intertwined now. The roots are intertwined. There was, for both of us, there was, it's almost like we were on the starting blocks a lot of the time, like, get ready to run, ready, steady, go, but it doesn't feel like that anymore. It doesn't feel like that. So, whatever comes, there is enough strength and foundations and roots for us to weather whatever it is that we need to do.
So beautiful. This is so beautiful. The experience that you're sharing here is incredibly real and very necessary. For me personally, right, the journey of conscious relationship has not been an easy one, And it is one where I'm constantly having to review myself and my own wounded masculine inside of the relationship as well, as a feminine or not, you know.
Yeah.
I've had to really strongly look at the places in my life where I've attempted to control or coerce my husband, right? And in the past, we're in a constant state of regenerating, right? According to the last time there was a breakdown, regenerating for the next. And we're in much more grounded, rooted place than we were 2 years ago. Like, we started to get into the groove of this. But recently, it's been a lot about seeing and witnessing his pains, his expression of pain, and allowing him the room to choose without being in that state of, I need to tell you what to do, or I need to be your mother, and I need to, like, I'm learning to engage with him from a place of real respect, but also communicate, as you say, with that little boy within him as well, from a place of respect too, because we cannot ignore that aspect. You know, I feel like there's a lot of communication out there at the minute with regards to conscious relationship that is very harsh upon the male and his expression and his growth process is very much like, learn to be sovereign, handle your stuff, don't give it to the woman, break it down, break down, break down. We got to be there for the breakdown too, you know? Like, I feel like for me, that's a part of what love is. It's being there with that, you know, and as a woman, it's been very important for me to learn how to be there without dropping into old archetypes.
Yeah.
Your relationship has grown to this point where you are fully committed, you are together, you are creating a life now from fully understanding each other, and it's taken a full book. So there must have been really powerful moments in your growth process for you both to get you to this place. Is there anything really striking you, like, as I'm speaking, like with regards to you finding your voice, finding your heart in the relationship that you could share with us?
There's two completely different things. One I'll just touch on really briefly is the book is called Bring Him Home, because that's what she heard. She heard the voices in the voice that she says them, and I refer to her as she because, as I said, it feels a bit rude, but she's really private. And I've said before, can I use your name in interviews? And she's gone, no. I'm like, okay. So it's she. But she heard the voices repeatedly, you know, bring him home. And I've actually since heard from other women that they've heard the same instructions. It's about bringing the sacred masculine home, bringing that masculine energy home. So that bigger picture, because there was so much kind of like, you know, weird woo-woo stuff that was happening around us that I kept saying to her, this is bigger than just you and me. We are doing this work for the whole collective. This isn't just about us, you know. So that was something that was really powerful, you know, as we progressed through and kind of helped. It did help. But the big painful, there's an obvious one which I kind of call the 8 days. You see, she was perfectly, you know, when twin flames come together. My experience, my understanding is, you know, it's two people that are, it's divinely orchestrated that these two people, their wounds will just interconnect perfectly so that they're optimum conditions to fast track, to catalyze, to bring everything that is not love to the surface to be transformed and healed. And my wound, as I said, which I thought I'd, you know, pretty much sorted, but found out that I hadn't, was this, you know, mother wound, this trauma from when I was 7 months old. And her response when things got tricky was to leave. She would shut down emotionally, or she would actually, you know, it's like this glass screen would come down. And the little boy in me was triggered by that. It's like, oh my God, mummy's gone. It's like the feminine energy is gone. And we'd been away we'd supposed to have gone away for a romantic weekend. It all went tits up, and she said, you know, take me home, you know, and I need some space to think about this. I'm not sure if I want to continue. And I said, what do you mean some space? And she said, She said a couple of weeks. And I said, what? You can't, a couple of weeks? I thought you were talking about a few hours or a day or two. And I kind of had a panic attack as I was driving up the motorway. I had to pull over really quickly into a service station and just do my thing and get my shoes off and lie on the ground and stuff. And was just kind of like hyperventilating. And then we got back home, and she was like, no, I need time. And I just went into this, what I call a sort of trauma release, a regression. I became a 7-month-old baby initially. I couldn't eat proper food, solid food. I couldn't sleep. I was just such nausea and pain. And, gradually over the few days, the man in me could sort of like see, your girlfriend just needs a bit of space. You've been a bit clingy and needy. It's okay. Maybe you'll come back together and maybe you won't. Yeah. But the traumatized little boy in me was just terrified, and I was just in so much pain, and it was bizarre. But but I'd said, bring it on. Whatever needs to happen, let it happen. And in the past, I probably would have got stoned, or I would have, just gone, let's distract myself or whatever. But it was like, no, you just sit with this, Miguel, and you just sit with it. And so that was by far the biggest. That was just like, so in the fire. I really hope I don't have to do that one again.
Yeah, that is huge. Like the expression here, like I can feel that. I felt that in every moment that you spoke. Like the pain of that is so great, and every single one of us can relate to it. That experience of where one human against another human, their needs are different. And there's just that taking space to see that and be with that and accept it and take responsibility for ourselves. It'd be very tough. A lot of stuff comes up around that. I am fully with you on that one. There's a key thing that comes up in my life, in my friends' lives, a lot around that feminine and masculine interrelating on every level. And it's this theme, this frequency of rage, right? It's anger.
Okay.
And everything that you've shared there, you've been vulnerable and open and very conscious with everything that's come through. You're aware of her and aware of all of her situations. Were there ever any moments inside of this journey where you fought with or struggled with rage against the feminine on any level?
It's a good question.
Is anger ever a thing that came up for you?
There were times when, I guess as you go through this journey, you become, initially there's going to be some projection, and you're looking outside and it's her fault.
Yeah.
But actually, so one of her wounds, one of her father wounds, that he used to shout and get angry. And so it was actually a total no-no for me to get angry. Right. I got angry with her once, right, and she went ballistic, and it was like, get out, and it was like I was banished. And for a long time, a few days, I was just like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. It's like, it wasn't that big a deal. I wasn't that angry. I wasn't that, verbally abusive or whatever. It was just a really short, but quite quickly I saw where the wound was. I saw it wasn't about me. It was about, that was her little girl that was terrified, and there was a part of her that had said, no man will ever speak to me the way that my father spoke to my mother. So it was just nipped in the bud. It was like, it wasn't an option. It was like, okay, so once that it's not fair sort of thing, I'm being massively over punished here. This is about her dad, and it's not about me. I just came to this point where, okay, well, if you want to be with this woman, these are the conditions, can you, because I guess they'd been shouting and stuff, as my parents, there'd been anger and there'd been rage and stuff. and I'd kind of thought that it felt that it was okay to a certain extent, and I still do. But it was in honouring her that it was like, okay. So I never raised my voice again. Whenever there's anything that goes wrong, then I do it calmly, and I learn to be with that.
It's beautiful. It's just, wow, that's huge. And it was powerful for many, I would imagine, me included, to hear you witnessing a truth as well that is important to acknowledge, that a lot of our conditions in relationship come from our wounded child.
Mm-hmm.
And there was sometimes I can look back at my history and see where I've overpunished due to my conditions, right? And felt justified in that, and that energy of superiority, justification, right? You've done something wrong and I am right, inside of any relationship, is a very, very toxic one. It can take us down a particularly difficult rabbit hole quite quickly. For you to make that choice and condition and aware of her needs there is really beautiful. Really beautiful, Miguel. Have you changed a lot through this relationship? You always this guy now, because you are serene as heck. You're just exuding peace and beauty and all these beautiful things. Were you always that way, or has this relationship transformed things from inside?
Thank you for all those kind words that you just said, and I think the answer is there's been a kind of like a quantum shift, through it's taken things to a whole different level. I've been reasonably, I've been I lived on the road. I was a new age traveler and did drugs and crime and homelessness and all that stuff. And I came off the road about 22 years ago, and that was the point that I began my healing. Yeah. So I've been on the path, but it really was, as I say, at the beginning of this relationship, at that point, there was like, okay, I'm not messing about anymore. It was kind of like, the healing stuff was a little bit of a hobby. But it was just like, no, we do this differently now, and everything has changed because of the relationship. Well, it's begun. I've always been sort of working empowering people. I've worked empowering disadvantaged youth for a long time, and I was working with beginning to work with adults. But it's since the relationship that everything shifted. Well, it was during the time when we were separate. I was invited to speak at the Goddess Conference in Glastonbury, and that was kind of like, something that was it was like I was zapped with this massive dose of divine feminine energy. And when I came away from there, that was when my writing shifted to a whole new level. All these kind of poetry and this stuff and the sacred masculine stuff just kind of started happening. That was a big transition, and it became, and there were a few women that were just showed up in my life that were saying, you're needed, are you in this properly now, or are you still gonna, is this, because there was this still a little bit of one foot of, oh yeah, but what about my personal needs? And, I want to just play around a little bit. And it was like, you are being asked to step fully into this role and do this work. It's not the time for messing about anymore. So it was like, okay, I'm ready. So that was the book, the website, the podcast, everything became, okay, I'm aligned now. I could see how everything in my life had been leading me to this point, join the dots up. It's like, obviously, Miguel, it's like, do you really need any more proof or any evidence of what all the challenges and shitty stuff and pain and whatever is? Kind of, it's the hero's journey, or whatever you want to call it, isn't it? It's the ordeals that we go through to prepare us to do the work, to make sure that ego's not this big monster that's going to get off on some big trip about it, and that we're humble, and that we're grounded, and that our service is rooted in love. Yeah.
And that love vibration is felt. It speaks beyond all story, beyond all pretension, beyond all narrative that may be attached to it. And I know you have a pretty strong, incredible narrative attached to you, right? Because I've heard it before. An amazing, amazing, amazing story. And I didn't open with that for a reason, right? Because I wanted to be straight down the line with what you're actually here bringing, like present tense right now, before I go to that, right?
Mm.
But for those of us who haven't, right, experienced your story before, like when did you start to wake up? When it was right after everything started to fall apart for you. You were doing the New Age traveling thing and you broke away. What caused that?
It was the birth of my firstborn son was the inspiration to get my shit together, really, because I was just so needy, controlling, addicted, and I woke up one morning just thinking perhaps my son will be better off, with just his mom. What am I bringing to the mix? And we tried quite a few things to sort of mend the relationship, and it didn't look like it was, like it was really going anywhere. We tried to do all the external stuff,
Yeah.
My back wasn't quite to the wall where it was like change is always an inside job, Miguel. You need to start looking inside. So I did actually, I think it was in a moment of, I'm not sure I meant it when I said it, but I'd said to who is now my ex-wife, the mother of my children, I'd said, I'll even go and see a counselor, if it will help. And we tried everything else, and it was like, oh shit, I said I'd go and see a counselor. So you got two choices, Miguel. Either you walk away from your son and your partner, or you go and check out this counselor thing. And I was kind of like, I've been living on the road. I've been living, outside of society. It was like, how on earth is going to listening to some straight, person chatting about stuff? How on earth is that going to help? But the guy that I ended up seeing was kind of, he was a bit of a guardian angel, really. And it was the first time that I began to connect and understand that the way that I'd been living, and because I'd been so abusing and neglecting myself in the way I was living, was just mirroring my self-worth that had been the result of, of my childhood. So it was like, oh, right. So from there, it was like, okay, so I can do something about this. If this is inside me and this is because I'm still living the past, then I can heal that, then I can do something about that. So that was really the significant point, the turnaround. It was, it was the beginning of, because I think it was the second session with him where I started talking. I just
it took you to the second. I love that.
Yeah. Well, it took me to the second for my body to react. It was kind of like all that trapped, suppressed emotion that I've been trying to keep down with all the drugs and all the rest of it. It's like the bottle just came out once I'd started speaking about it. I was just sick as a dog, I was so ill. I just got so ill because it just manifested physically, instead of it all manifesting mentally and depression and so on. It started moving and flowing, sort of thing. Yeah,
that was a big step. A lot of men don't like that step, Miguel. A lot of men don't like that step. It was very brave of you to take it, especially at that time. And I love that you were inspired by your son. Like your first one played a role in those changes. That's huge. Like a soul came down and kind of gave you a navigation, acted like a navigational tool. Yeah. That's beautiful.
He saved me, because a lot of my friends were dying, suicides, drug overdoses, car crashes. And it was like, if I'd have walked away, the drugs I was doing at the time weren't really working anymore. So I would have ended up on something harder. And so he saved me, and I don't know if you've heard, but maybe some of the listeners haven't heard, but yeah, he was born under a full moon, under an oak tree in the middle of a field. because that's where we were living. We were living in a bender, you know, a sort of makeshift tent on a sprout farm. I was picking sprouts.
Oh,
And the midwives, yeah, we said we wanted a home birth, and they came to the, you know, to our bender, and that's why he's called Okie, because he was born under an oak tree in the middle of a field under a full moon, and it was like, you know, he's such a. I caught him, like, you know what I mean. I was the first person that, yeah. It was just in the bender with all the sheepskins and the, you know, wood burning stove and the moon shining through the door, and yeah, it was pretty spectacular, really. Something very beautiful.
you remember it now. You can still feel it, can't you? Was it what you expected? Like, did you have any idea what that experience was going to be like, welcoming your son to the world?
Well, what I remember was, because I was already, you know, I knew that I wasn't at peace, and I knew that I wasn't happy. What I remember hoping was that having a son would make me into a man, because I always felt like this. I'm a boy in a man's body. I'd felt like that for ages. It was like, you know, I kind of looked and said, I don't feel like a man. You know, what's wrong? And I knew I was miserable, and I wasn't, you know, great company a lot of the time, and so on. So I hoped that just having a baby, you know, would make me into a man, and all of it, you know, would be like a magic button that everything was then okay.
Yeah.
But it was actually it was a magic button, and it was a catalyst to make things worse, to make me get my shit together. Because, you know, there's that classic thing, when a woman has a baby, she starts giving all her energy to the baby rather than me. And my little boy's having a tantrum, going, "Hey, I'm not. This isn't right," you know.
Yeah.
Where's all my attention and stuff that I was getting before? So, yeah. So, you know, in that respect, he catalyzed the whole process of me getting my shit together. Like, yeah.
I love this, right? My husband is also very private.
Yeah.
I have this wonderful conundrum when I'm talking about things, and I'm like, I can relate to so much of what you're saying today, but I don't want to give him away. But like, he's a beautiful, beautiful man.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed about him, I think my screen's frozen. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you and see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. One of the things that I've noticed in him over the last year or more, because we've got married recently, and family's obviously a discussion we're having. There's this vast internal shift happening within him now, right? I can see cogs turning and commitments being made to himself that I think he's been putting off for years, you know, like things he's really facing. And it's not through any influence of mine other than loving him. And not loving him from a place of wanting him to change either, because I spent a period of our relationship doing exactly that, right? Just picking at everything that he was doing and saying, right, I want all this to be different, right? It wasn't until I caught myself on and realized that everything he was showing me was within me, right? Everything that I was seeing was my problem and not the other way around.
Yeah.
It's a major thing to get my head around. But he's growing in a way that is utterly private and very sacred to him right now. I can't say any more than that, but it's really, really beautiful to witness. And as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing a man, and I need to say this, who is you are so at peace with yourself, and you speak of this past dynamic, this other reality. And I can feel the quantum leap that has gone on, the commitment that you've done. I can see that you've witnessed God within yourself. And I can feel it. And I'm certain everybody here can feel it as well. And for those men who are on the cusp of these great changes in their lives now, what's been the finest tool, the greatest tool you've had in fully owning that within yourself? In finding this place within yourself?
Yeah, it's probably, you know, it's about a commitment to making the journey from the head back home to the heart. And, you know, and in order to be with that journey, then we have to have the courage to feel you know, we have to forget all the bullshit about what it is to be a man, and that we are here to experience the full range of emotions.
Yes.
None of them are to be denied, and they are all here, and they all have their value, and they all have their place.
Yes.
So it's to feel, to have the courage, and to be, to shift that thing of, you know, big boys don't cry and all that rubbish, that we move it to, okay, I will. Because when we make the journey back to the heart, the first thing we encounter is all the feelings that weren't felt at the time of the trauma or the time of the experiences.
Yeah.
So we feel this, and we own it, and we know, you know, that it is not an endless reservoir. It is just old stuff that is clearing, and that we are, every time we have the courage to stay with the feeling as long as possible, without engaging the mind, which is the crucial bit, because what we tend to do is that we give ourselves a hard time for having a hard time. But if we just feel the sensations in our body, whether it's sadness or grief or rage or jealousy, actually they're just vibrations in the body. And if we can just, the longer we can stay with it, the quicker it leaves, and it's resolved, and it's transformed, and it's done. We only top the reservoir of emotional pain back up if we start beating ourselves up about, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this, and, you know, and I should man up, and it's not right to. Or if we point the finger outwards and project and say it's her fault, you know, it's if we blame. So the more that we can own it and be with it and be still with it and be present with it, the quicker it passes. You know, that's my. And the mind will rant and rave and go, this is going to go on forever, and, you know, how are you going to cope with this, and, you know, this is never ending. And it's like, shut up, mind, shut up. I'm just going to be with this, and, you know, we just be with it as best we can. Sometimes we be with it for a little bit, and then it's like, oh my god, I've got to distract myself, or I've got to do something, but, you know, that's okay. But we know that every time we sort of cut off the feeling of it, it's like, I'm just postponing it. I'm going to have to do that work later.
Yeah.
And to reach out, you know, I think you asked for one thing. I've probably said a few, but to reach out.
It's so good though. You just keep going. You keep going. This is gold.
to reach out to others, you know, for support. And, you know, there are so many different modalities and so on that can help facilitate and you know, lubricate the journey, so that it's not, you know, it's not so painful. And we don't, you see, I don't think that it's shame that keeps us isolated a lot of the time, you know. Oh, I'm a mess, I've fallen apart, and, you know, and I can't let anybody see this.
Yeah.
But, you know, to reach out for help and support, because I don't believe that we were meant to do this journey all by ourselves. You know, it's not a case of, you know, the first little thing, it's like crying for help all the time. But when you need to, get some help and get some support, and because it's that, I've been talking about it recently, it's this soft strength. You know, we have to face everything these days with a soft strength. So we're strong and we're courageous and we get shit done and we do what we need to do. But at the same time, there's a loving, soft, tender energy in which that we do that work with. We're kind to ourselves. We're not like cracking the whip, and, you know, it's not that sort of hard. It's a direct kind of, proactive, clean, sort of tough, strong, but there's a softness with it, and there's a compassion, and you know, we're onto the whole divine union of the masculine and feminine stuff, really, aren't we there?
Yeah, that's the big thing, isn't it? Like, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. And, you know, I think it's time that we started forgetting a little bit, you know, not getting so attached to whether we're in a male body or a female body, because the truth is we're not man or woman. We're not these genders. They're so on the surface. It's so kind of superficial, and I think it gets in the way. You know, there's a lot of, I know that there are generations of pain and mistrust, and what patriarchy has done to women is you know, totally unacceptable. But now, man and woman, there is so much pain, you know, and there is so much mistrust. And when we get this divine masculine and feminine within each of us. When we balance that within us, then we come into these beautiful divine relationships, and where the cosmic child can be born, where we can create something beautiful, where we can create a beautiful world. It feels like it's just really foundational stuff, really, and then children, if children are born from that love rather than codependency and fear and all the stuff that, well, I speak for myself, that I was born from, and that I'm sure many people were born from.
Yeah.
That's how we create heaven on earth. No, it seems pretty simple, not necessarily easy, but pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. Is this woman, this soul, whom you are connected so deeply to, has she been a mirror for you?
Yeah, massively, yeah.
What are you seeing in the mirror these days?
Oh, a good twist on that one.
You can be honest.
What am I seeing in the mirror these days? Yeah, I guess what comes up first is I'm kind of seeing through the lens of compassion more, and I see her wounded little girl. It's I guess the man in me sees the wounded girl in her when she's upset or being unreasonable or whatever, behaving in a way that I'm judging isn't the ideal way to be. So I can see her with more compassion, and there's more of a tenderness towards her wounds rather than me getting triggered by those wounds. It's more, it's being able to kiss the scars, and it's unconditional love we're talking about, isn't it? I guess we're seeing more through that lens, and I see, and I see the little boy in me that still has his little tantrums and stuff, but it's a lot more, self-contained, and it doesn't last long, and it's, and I don't even need to mention it. You see, I used to over-communicate. We had to discuss everything, and I wanted to process everything together, and she was the opposite. She was under-communicate and closed down, so we're finding a balance with that. She came up to me the other day, actually. Where are we? Is it yesterday or the day before? And said, I think that, can we sit down? There's something I'd like to talk about. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? That was always me.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. Her masculine so much more healed that she could take, be the one to lead it and say, come and sit down, Miguel. There's something for us that we need to talk about here. There's a little misalignment in the energy, something that I just need to clear. And I begin with, I think the first thing I said was, "Whoa, that sounds ominous." But we sat down and talked, and it didn't take long for me to see afterwards. I think I'd actually come back to my place by then, and I just messaged her and said, "Thank you for initiating that conversation." I said, "That just shows how far you have come. Like, you know what I mean? That was just so valued, and I so appreciate that. Respect to you.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. She sounds like my husband. He goes down. He doesn't communicate. I'm an over communicator. I am overactive and masculine. I can be indignant and fiery and headstrong, and always had this idea that everything in the world could potentially tie me down. Like, I never wanted to be committed to anything, but then, funnily enough, by some irony, my heart would always fall the deepest. Right? And then do things the opposite of what my head was saying. My heart would be here and my head would be here. And she sounds like my husband, private and quiet and soulful, though, like a whole lot of deep stuff going on there. He's the same.
Yes, yeah.
And he only makes noise if he's not okay.
Right.
But everything whatever the nature of the noise, unless he's singing. Then he's a happy guy if he's singing. But other than that, she sounds beautiful, Miguel. She sounds beautiful. Of all the little instances where you've shared her,
she is. She's a real beauty. Yeah. And the reality is, you see, I mean, that was, one of the key reasons why I knew I had to write the book was, because we're all living different versions of the same story.
Yeah.
So what myself and my partner have been through is everybody, when you can share your story just as it is, raw, vulnerable, real, just tell it how it was without any slant or or whatever. Other people can so relate to it because we are all living to different degrees, and there's different triggers, but it's all actually the same rich spectrum of emotions that are stimulated, and it's all the same. We're all on the same journey. We're all supposed to be walking each other home, and so I feel that sharing the challenges of conscious relationship is another way that we can connect, and then we don't have to be, it's just me and my partner and we can't let anybody else know the troubles that we're going through. That's caused so many troubles and problems, and the shame of we're struggling in our relationship. It's let's talk about, let's not have anything taboo. Let's talk about everything, because we're all experiencing the same bloody stuff, but the majority of people think, it's just me. But it's so it's like we started off in that place, didn't we? Me saying I'm been struggling a bit, it's all a bit challenging at the moment, and you go, yeah, me too. It's like it's the same with everything. We're here to embrace the fullness of this human experience, isn't it? Our flaws and everything. That is the destination, is just the full embracing of it. There's nowhere to arrive at. Ascension is the more that we can be here now from this loving place within us.
Quote billboard. Best quote ever, Miguel. Be here now within us. Yes. The ascension of the soul self, only accessed with 2 feet on the ground and a heart wide open.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes.
See your book, right? Have you been doing things around your book? Like, are there things that you've been offering? Have people been coming to you asking questions? Are you serving in any way that is aligned with what you've learned there?
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, there are a few things. I mean, the thing that's happened as a result of the relationship is the one-to-one sacred masculine healing sessions that I now offer. Which are all about, essentially, I can say as it is with you, it's about holding space to catalyze the divine union of the masculine and feminine within each person. Sometimes that's, there's a relationship that people want to talk about, but fundamentally it's like our outer relationship is just a reflection of the twin flame dynamic within ourselves. So it's holding space for people that are ready to come home to themselves and that want to have better relationships with others. So that's my sacred masculine healing sessions, which I love doing. I just love holding space, and all the magic just happens in that tender, strong energy to be there and just witness. So there's those sessions. There are podcasts. There's a podcast series now, Sacred Masculine Rising.
Right. Okay. Where do we find it?
That's on my website, which is migueldean.net, and it's also on the Sacred Stories publishing website. But yeah,
It's popping your details up on the front there for everyone listening. I can't wait to read your book and to get my husband to listen to this podcast and read your book.
Yeah, well, it's a series of 12 podcasts. It's 12. What I did was it came up. It was like, well, a bit like you said, how did I get to where I am? And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. I'm just kind of like here. So I kind of broke it down to 11 principles that I, that I would say were a key to helping me, travel the journey to where I am today. So that's the podcast series, yeah. And the book, of course, which you can get from my website, or you can get from Amazon. And I will send you. I will send you a copy. I assume that you'd prefer a paperback rather than an ebook.
Love a paperback.
Okay, well then you just message me your address afterwards, and I'll pop one in the post for you. I'd love to do that.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful gift, guys. Whoever's listening, can you please pop the Amazon link for "Bring Him Home" by Miguel Dean under the show? If you've got it there, just stick it up. Anyone who can pop into Amazon.co.uk and stick it up there for others that have arrived in. I can't even begin to explain how beautifully timely and relevant and powerful and healing it's been to be in your presence today, Miguel. It's been so nice. I really resonate with you, and thank you for bringing down with such harmony and groundedness and accessibility such deep truths. I know that's a conscious effort on your part. I can feel it and sense it deeply, and it matters to me on a huge level, which obviously you know. I just want to say thanks for everything that you've done and everything that you're doing and everything that you are. And I really, really hope that we get to have you back on again another time. Hopefully when you two have moved in together and we can get new, fresh perspectives from that different avenue that you're now on. See how you're getting on.
I would love that. I'd love that. Yeah. Thank you so much for for enabling this to happen, because it's been beautiful. It's just felt like being at home, having a chat with a really good friend. It's really beautiful to finally connect in this way. And I've had my eye on you as well, watching what you're up to and stuff. And I say the same back to you, mirror, mirror. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the grace and the vulnerability and the honesty and the truth. It's really beautiful to witness. We do what we can to help this little crazy adventure along. Hey, we all do.
Yeah, we do. Couple of inappropriate jokes and a few swears on the way from me.
Yeah.
A lot of very measured, warm, loving engagements and stories from you. We all have our way, and I so appreciate you being there with me in that as well. Thank you, Miguel. I will take that on a listen. I'm trying not to make jokes about it, right? When people give me compliments, I make jokes because I get really uncomfortable. And look at me, I'm just sitting there going, no, I'm going to hear you. And thank you from my heart. All right, guys. So this was Miguel Dean. Miguel Dean's truth is absolutely our unity. Can we please continue to share it, pass it along? If there is a male or a female, or anyone who's in a conscious relationship, or one who is attempting to have one, or calling it in their lives, please send them a link to this interview. I'm certain it'll be very, very powerful. And if you haven't already read the book, Bring Him Home by Miguel Dean is on Amazon and on his website, migueldean.net, if you would like to access it. I'm going to get my own copy. Boom! Perks. Thanks, Miguel. It's been a pleasure. Mwah, mwah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love. Bye-bye.